Just wait a few more minutes for a few more people to come online. Hello, everyone. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your productivity expert. And I am the creator and founder of the Take Charge of Your Productivity program. And we're going to talk today about the 3 hidden time wasters that are really dramatically affecting your productivity and how to eliminate them. So in a couple minutes, we'll get started. We'll just let people to come in. And I appreciate everybody's patience with me, as this is my first Google Hangout, and it's a little complicated. I got how Facebook works and some of the other platforms, but this one is a little bit complicated to get the recording set up and have everything functioning properly. So I hope that you found this okay, and that you are able to, if you're watching this after the fact, that you're really able to see all the slides that are being presented as well, because in my first test I wasn't able to get the slides presented, and so I'm hoping that that will work out. Otherwise, if you log in and you don't have the slides, please do let me know, and I'd be happy to send you the screen flow that I'll be setting up. Welcome. I see it's working. We've got some people logging in. As I said, I'm new to Google Hangouts, so I'm not sure whether you're able to talk or you have to type in to the Q&A area in order to, let's see, I don't even have a Q&A here. There's a chat area. Let's see. If you can see my chat, go ahead and chat back, just so I know that the chat function is working and I'll be able to see any questions that you want to put up. See how that's working out for us. I don't see anything. What we can also do is, I've got another computer right next to me. I can also take questions via Facebook message. So if that's going to be easier for you, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this Google Hangout thing, but if you're more familiar with Facebook, I do have Facebook up, and I'll be able to take any messages that come in, any questions over Facebook as well. So we'll give people another minute or two, and then we'll get started. Looking at this functionality here. Uh-oh. Welcome, welcome. Welcome on. Let's see. What does this do? Ooh, that sets up another one. That's kind of weird. That's not what I want. All right. Another 2 minutes and we'll get started. So whoever's online here, since I'm not sure if I can identify who you are, just see that I have the number. If you can try and type into the group chat and just say hello, that would be great. Otherwise, send me a quick Facebook message and say hello. Excuse me. I see people coming and going here, and I'm not sure how this is working. Well, the good news is if for some reason you don't get on this, I will be posting it afterwards. I'd rather catch you live, but hey, if that's not gonna, this may be the last time that I use Google Hangouts until I figure out how it works. Okay. So let's get started because, that's a time waster too, is having to wait for people to show up, right? So for those of you who are here, thanks for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your productivity expert. I'm the creator and founder of the Take Charge of Your Productivity program. And that's a program where I've consolidated together all the experience that I've had through my own business success after starting and building up a multi-million-dollar business and selling it to a public company, in addition to the large business organizations that I've worked with, and the last 5 years coaching for Tony Robbins and working with thousands of small to medium-sized businesses, really helping to understand what are the key factors that go into productivity so that we can scale this at a much larger basis. And so that's where Take Charge of Your Productivity was born, is because I wanted to be able to bring this really to the masses and articulate it in a way that was going to help others to be able to use this framework so that they themselves, whether they were able to work with me on a one-on-one basis, or even better, to be able to do some work on their own and then maybe come to some live events and work with me on a group basis in that context. But anyway, that's where Take Charge of Productivity came from, my passion for helping people to add more value, to find the value in everything, and be able to be more efficient, effective, and overall more fulfilled. So that's why we're talking today about giving you some secrets, identifying some hidden time wasters that you might or might not be aware of. And I think there's going to be some nuances in there, and then tell you really how they come together into one point and how you can use those. We are just hitting the tip of the iceberg, I have to say, because we only have about 30 to 40 minutes tonight. And so therefore, if you really want to go deeper, when you really get excited about what you're learning here in this 30 to 40 minutes, and you see what effect this can have on your productivity just in that 30 to 40 minutes, imagine being able to spend 2 days in, for instance, on a live boot camp, or to work with me online or one-on-one. So there are other opportunities, and at the end of the call, we'll just talk about how you can dig deeper into this when you have that desire. And so without further ado, I am going to figure out how to start this presentation. I'm going to do a screen share here, see how that works. Great. Oops, that didn't work. There we go. Screen share. Let's make sure you all have that. Start screen share. There we go. So again, the topic tonight is the 3 hidden time wasters that are dramatically affecting your productivity and how you can eliminate them. So let's start out with, why are some people not productive? What do you think? What are some of the feedback that people can give me? You can type it in. I don't think anybody has access to speak, so you can type it into the chat, or you can send something over Facebook. Yeah, thank you. So first of all, overwhelm. Overwhelm is a really big area where people have taken on too much, there's too much going on, and then all of a sudden it's overload, it's overwhelm, it's, right? That's that bomb right there. Thank you. Someone else said distractions. Absolutely. We have so many distractions today, and they become greater and greater as a trend with cell phones and, great. Somebody said competing priorities. That's right. We have competing priorities. Stress. Absolutely. Yes, a lack of energy, lack of balance, lack of direction. Thank you. Great examples. So those are great examples. And really what they all come down to, and somebody said it, what all of those things result in is stress, right? All of this creates stress, and stress is the #1 thing that is killing our productivity. As a matter of fact, 70 to 80% of doctor visits today are due to stress. Most of our common illnesses, they come from stress. And it's costing the businesses $300 billion in lost productivity. It's pretty amazing that now that mental health issues have been the #1 reason why employees are out long term, now going past what used to be for physical injuries. That's amazing. This is really a serious problem, and that's why productivity is at all-time low for organizations. The real key cost is, we talked about what it was costing overall businesses in the United States, but really, what's it costing you? You might be a business owner, and you might just be managing yourself. Either one is, you can imagine and take a look at, what is it costing you? What is it costing you in your mind? I mean, are you spending a lot of time worrying? And that impairs your judgment when you're stressed, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. You know, negativity fills your mind when you're stressed, right? And all of those things, that mindset, you just don't feel free. It's mind clutter. And then it affects our behavior, right? It may affect your appetite. It may affect your sex drive. It may affect that you're drinking more. You might not be able to sleep at night. All of these things are going to then turn out to affect your behavior and affect your emotions, right? Because if you're not sleeping, you're going to be more irritable. And just being stressed and feeling overwhelmed creates that sense of depression, apathy, procrastination, you know, all of those things that come out on the emotional side. And then eventually it takes its toll on our body, right? It starts with headaches and muscle cramps and things like that. And then it turns into real serious problems like chronic fatigue, skin irritations, and then things like cancer, diabetes, and other diseases, which really, it takes its toll on our body. And what's really important is, because when we're stressed, our emotions are high. When our emotions are high, our intellect is low. I mean, think about it. That totally makes sense, right? Is that we are then no longer in a place where we are finding solutions. We're just getting further entrenched in the problem, right? We can't think, we can't focus, we can't get out of ourselves to really see the big picture and see what needs to take place. So that's a really big problem. What's causing some of this stress? So we're going to talk about these 3 hidden elements, which is what is causing the stress. These are the main factors. #1, the #1 hidden time waster is that we're chasing time. Seriously. I mean, we all know there's 24 hours in a day. There's nothing that you can do to change that. There's nothing that I can do to change that. That's all there is. So we're not managing time in any way, right? And we're so focused on time. Oh, I don't have enough time. People are so busy, right? And so we're chasing time. We're trying to control something that is finite and can't be controlled. And that, of course, is going to create stress. So you're probably saying to me, well, duh, yeah, but the fact is that you don't have the time. And I'm going to tell you to think about it in a different way. Because, you know, why is it that, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is that you've had some days that you can get a ton of things done. And in a half a day, you could be as productive as a whole week another week. Have you ever experienced that? I know that I have, and I know that many people that I've talked to have experienced that. So what's that all about, right? We want to be able to capture and understand, how does that happen? How can we make it so that every day is like that half day where we're in the flow and things we just crank them out, what we've got to get done, what we want to focus on, right? And the thing is that here's the key, is it's not about time, it's about energy. It's about, you know, what you do with your time, yes, but it's also about how much of yourself you bring to that time and how you feel about what you've accomplished, right? So I almost talk about productivity as a feeling, right? Because we're not computers and we're not these big systems that, you know, produce, let's say, tires or something, and at the end of the day, but your productivity is based on how many tires you were able to produce. We're human, right? We have emotions, we have different things that we need to take care of. Some of them are output related, but a lot of it is creating satisfaction for ourselves, creating that fulfillment, creating it in our family, living by our values, all of those types of things. And that's all coming from our energy management. So that's just another perspective for you, a way that you can get away from that time waster of chasing time and start understanding what are the components that help you to manage your energy and live what I call a championship psychology. That's going to make all the difference for your productivity. Number 2, excuses. Excuses are a huge time waster. We invest in general. A lot of people that I know, right, when I talk to them about, where they're going with their business and, what's been holding them back and whatever, we get caught up in the stories and the excuses. The why isn't that happening, right? And we get caught up in what I call, and my good friend Dr. Thomas Duncan calls, ants, can'ts, and buts, right? Ants are those automatic negative thoughts, and they come in the form of can'ts and buts sometimes, and there's other forms that they come in too, right? It's that gremlin on your shoulder, that negative self-talk that says, oh, I can't do that, or that's a great solution, but it's not going to work for me in my business or my industry because my business is different. So, all sorts of stories and excuses, and we spend a lot of time and energy, especially that energy that goes into those stories and excuses, and we keep repeating them to ourselves in patterns, and then they become more ingrained. And, that's what's behind when people say what's holding them back from growing their businesses. It's you. It's me, right? It's us. We're holding ourselves back, and this is why. It's our excuses and our ants, can'ts, and buts. So think about that. This is the principle called language in the championship psychology segment of the Take Charge of Your Productivity program. And that is really key. There's a lot more depth to it, but I just want you here to be aware of what your language is. Think about it. Listen to your language. Listen to, if somebody asks you what you want, do you go in and start talking about what you don't want? Think about that, because that's what happens a lot of times. I'll ask somebody, what is it they want? What are their goals? And they'll talk about what they don't want. As a matter of fact, I have a client that I was just talking to yesterday about, he's going out to get financing and he's building up these project portfolios, and he's very focused on what he doesn't want and where he finds the biggest risks. And that in itself is a big factor in what's holding him back, because he's not focusing on what he wants, and he's so focused on the risks and what could go wrong. That's the main question that he asks himself, is what could go wrong, and therefore he's going to find all sorts of things that go wrong. So be conscious of what your language is and listen and identify those ants, can'ts, and buts. Number three is the lack of control of your environment, right? And I have 2 examples that I want to use in the lack of control for the environment. And that would be the got a minute meeting, right? Today it's a much bigger problem because, there's the open door policy, and then there's, the layouts now that are completely open with cubicles that, you can hear everybody's conversation. That's a distraction, as well as the fact that it's so easy for people to just pop around the corner and ask you, hey, got a minute? And then they're going to ask you about something that they're working on that maybe you assigned them, or, or that they wanted to get your input. And let's face it, those got a minute meetings, they never take a minute, do they? Never. And they distract you from what you're working on. So every time you get into something that you're working on, it takes you then time to get back into it after you've been distracted. So you really need to plan for your distractions. So what does that mean exactly? How do you plan for your distractions? Well, you plan it by setting up a system that says, hey, when I have this little placard up on my desk, or some sort of stuffed animal that identifies that you're not available, then people know. They know that there's a specific time or times in the day where they can come to you and ask their questions, and they can bring those questions together. Because really, if you were a manager and they're coming to you with all these questions, you're not empowering them to come up with solutions themselves. And that is, again, going to be a time waster in the organization, because they're not going to be empowered. And that means they're going to be less efficient because they're always going to be looking for someone else's opinion as to, can I do this? And they're going to feel like that you need to be there for them to move forward and so forth. And so you want to really empower your people and also to plan your schedule so that you can get the work done that you need to do. The result of what's happening with these types of got-a-minute meetings and these distractions is a big factor to the stress, because you're having to come in early before work and stay later after work, or bring your work home because you're not able to get the work done that you need to do in the hours that you're there doing it, right? So it's about how you manage your energy and, in this case, your environment. And coming back to that concept of championship psychology, which I mentioned earlier, which is a segment, the first segment and most important segment in the Take Charge of Your Productivity program that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about later, that contains 2 other segments, and I'll just briefly tell you those after I have a quick drink. Those are, the other 2 segments are winning strategies and sustainable results. And these 3 things that are holding you back right now, these time wasters we're talking about, are all in the realm of championship psychology. And one of the 7 key principles, core principles, is environment is paramount. It's up to you to control your environment because you have a choice. And choice, as a matter of fact, is another one of those principles, which choice is our greatest gift, because you do have a choice to set things up the way that's going to be most productive for you. Another example of not controlling the environment, I love this this cartoon. This dog thing around his face helps him to stop looking at his phones every couple seconds, and that's so indicative of the addiction and the habitual nature that we have of constantly looking at our phone, hearing the ding of a message go, whether it's an email or it's a text message. And it's really become a compulsion to constantly be connected. And it is so important to control your environment and turn that off. Train yourself to put that phone in your drawer, or to make it so that there are settings that you can put, I know on the iPhone and I'm sure on the other phones, where it'll be silent except for emergency numbers that you can identify. So there's so many things that you can do in your environment. Turn off the noise that comes on your computer so you don't hear the email bing every time, or don't have it show up on your screen when you're working on something else. All those things, they take you slightly away from whatever it is that you're doing, and you want to stay laser focused. And in my online program that I provide, when I talk a lot more about the hows and different strategies, is there some great strategies that we teach you as to how to get that laser focus when in particular time frames when you're really working on something. So let's talk about, that's what these 3 elements really are, is focus. And I'm going to tell you how, because you're like, huh? That doesn't really make sense. Because if you think about them, they probably don't seem obvious. And so that's why I'm going to bring them together in the types of focus. There's actually 3 types of focus, right? And that corresponds with our 3 hidden time wasters. And I'm using this element because so many people talk about, it being that focus is the core, and it really is. But when they talk about focus, they're often thinking about attention of focus, right? Is blocking out those distractions and whatnot. And I want you to understand that the key to really overcoming focus, and I shouldn't say overcoming, to be able to really harness focus in the most positive way, is to align these 3 different types of focus. So you're saying, come on, Penny, get on with it. All right. So strategic focus is the first type of focus. And that's how we approach things. So that's why we talked about, is it time or is it energy? So how we approach things, how we're going to approach things, is going to make all the difference. Are we approaching something that we can't control, or are we approaching something from the perspective of what we can control? And then understanding what are the drivers that influence that approach, so that we can then develop the steps of what needs to be done and make sure that every task and every activity that we do we come at it from a strategic focus. I was just at an experts panel yesterday with Power Team International, and one of the things that we were talking about was networking. And so when I brought up the 3 different types of focus, so let's say you're going to meet somebody for lunch, and they were talking about that, and they were talking about the use of social media and how to use networking. Well, if you're going to meet somebody for lunch, by just planning a little bit ahead of time and having some strategic focus, you can turn that lunch, which would have just been maybe an hour of chatting with this person and hearing what's going on with them and telling them what's going on with you, is you might set an outcome for that meeting and have some strategic focus and say, you know what, I'd like to leave this meeting not just having connected with this person, but I'd also like to leave the meeting where we offer each other 2 or 3 meaningful contacts that we could each help each other with, or 2 or 3 meaningful steps that we could do to help each other further our business, or whatever the context is. All of a sudden, it's a game changer. By having a different strategic focus, you've just turned 1 hour meeting into a real tool for you to support you in moving your business forward, or maybe it's for something in the community or for your family, whatever it is. You've just maximized that time that you're spending with that person by understanding what it is that they can do to help you and what you can do to help them. That's really important, is adding that value. So the second type of focus is that mental focus, right? That's how we filter things and really focus on our priorities. And so when I say how we filter things, that's coming back to those no excuses, the ands, can'ts, and buts. That's our mental focus, right? And you might have great strategic focus, but you can imagine that you might have a great strategy and you're focused on the right things, you understand your values and what's important and what your goals are, and you've got the big picture. But at the same time, you're self-sabotaging yourself by saying, we can't do it, or we don't have the right people, we're too small, I don't have the time. All of those things that are coming up are creating possibly that self-sabotage, right? Because the mental focus is is away from what you want as opposed to towards what you want. So think about that. And then we come back to that attention of focus, is where we put our concentration in the moment, bringing our presence and really focusing on the process or the steps of what needs to take place in that moment, and really giving it our full attention. And again, when these 3 things are in alignment, that's when you really harness the power of focus in its entirety. And so I want you to really think about that. I want to give some examples too, so that you can kind of get a feeling of how that works. And here's a little graphic to show you, in other words, that our approach, our strategy is in the center, and it's surrounded by our intention, which is our mental focus, with our attention, which is our attention of focus. And again, I bring back that topic and that theme of championship psychology. When you really live championship psychology, you're aligning all of these levels of focus. And that's what you strive for. That's what you want to live every day as though it's game day, and really show up with a championship psychology. And in your business, if you think about it, it's the sequencing that's important. I explained that there's 3 pillars to the Take Charge of Your Productivity program, and that the 10 elements are broken down into those three pillars: championship psychology, winning strategy, and sustainable results. Now, just like in sports, right, they say that that psychology is 95% of the game, and the skill and is like 5%, right? Because you can develop those skills, but you've got to have alignment, and you've got to have that psychology in order to really be and show up as the champion. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at sports, because this is the same whether it's swimming, whether it's golf, whether it's football. In our championship psychology boot camp, we use a lot of themes around football. So here I'm going to choose Michael Phelps and swimming. So his strategic focus is really having a clear vision. His clear vision is gold medalist, many times over. And he translates that into his short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, right? He breaks that down and identifies what are the key drivers that's going to keep him physically fit, mentally fit, right? And all of those things of what he needs to spend his time and energy on to get the most results and to move forward. So one thing that we know about Michael Phelps is that he's really big into visualizations. That's part of his strategy, is visualizing that perfect. They say put the tape in, because that's what he does, is he puts that perfect performance in his mind and he runs it through. And that ties in, right? These are all linked with that mental focus. He's able to block out that inner critic, right? Maybe he doesn't want to get up in the morning. They're like, who are you kidding? You think you're going to win again? Your time is up, right? But he tells himself a different story. He says, oh, shut up, right? And he says to himself what he knows to be true, creating that language in the story that supports the direction that he wants to go in. And he's able to push away that inner critic and stay in that mental focus. And then there's that attention, right? While he's practicing, he's got to stay present. He's got to make sure and keep the distractions away from anyone who might be swimming next to him, anything that he might see at the bottom of the pool, a reflection or anything. He's got to stay focused and be present and keep his attention towards the process, the movements that he's making, and really block everything out and controlling his environment. So that's just a high-level example to see how, from an athlete, how that's working. You can imagine that if you play another sport like golf, you can imagine the same thing. Now let's look inside an organization, right? A company. I have this example that I love, which is a number of years ago, Alcoa had some new leadership. O'Neill was coming in, and they were having a press release, and everybody was eager to hear what kind of strategies he was going to put in place, what kind of financials and profits he was going to be projecting. And that's what they were looking forward to, is the projections. And he shocked everybody, because he didn't talk at all about projections or numbers or anything. He got up there and he simply spoke about one thing. And it was a very non-traditional approach. He said that he was focusing on safety. That was his #1 priority. And everybody thought, he's crazy, right? And they thought for sure everybody was writing in the press how Alcoa is, doomed. And but really, he's brilliant, right? That was so strategic, so brilliant in bringing that one thing that all employees could embrace. And that one thing would filter from the bottom up through the whole organization and change everything. So let's take a look. Why did this work? Right? And he really did. He let everybody know that it's all about safety, that anything that they do, that they need to be sure that there's too many deaths that were occurring in the organization and injury, and they needed to make sure that whatever loopholes were closed, that everybody needed to be working at the safest level. So, he was strategic in his planning and execution. And he did that basically by incorporating everybody from the bottom up. That was the strategy, is to get everybody involved, right, in his strategic focus, and focus on one thing that everyone could embrace. And he knew that that would change everything in the organization. So the attention of focus was keeping people present, right? So they were really focusing on the day-to-day routine, on the process and steps of what they were doing, and really identifying and looking for ways to optimize it in the eyes and guise of security and safety, but at the same time, it was going to bring a lot of other great changes as well in the organization. And their mental focus, right, is they had this filter now that everything was seen through the eyes of safety. And it could be embraced by everyone at every level. It wasn't like, if you're talking about profits and things that people on the floor felt like they had very little influence over. This was something that they felt that they could add value and influence at every level. So that's it. They focused on one fundamental principle, and at the end of the day, it gave them new and greater purpose, really all coming together on the idea of safety. Then it changed their focus. It changed what they looked at, what they thought about, and the way that they filtered everything they saw. It changed the questions that they asked. We know, And that's under language, again, that when we ask better quality questions, we're going to get better quality answers. So they started changing the way that they looked and how they examined things, how they came up with solutions. It also changed their physiology and the way that they approached everything. Everything changed. And so the results that they had was processes, they changed. They changed for the better. They created higher quality, greater standards, and they were able to be embraced by everyone in the organization. Their innovation spiked. So they were able to create a lot of new innovative changes in the organization based on the safety principle, and their communication increased, and they worked together collaboratively as a team. So their teamwork improved. And I guess it's no surprise that profits grew too. So as their productivity grew, as they focused on one thing, which was safety, and they aligned the 3 levels of focus, the strategic focus, the mental focus, and the attention of focus, their profits grew, because productivity equals profits. Okay, I want you to think about that in your mind. Say it again and write it down. Productivity equals profits. And when I say profits, I mean in every area of your life. Sure, there's profits here that are financial profits, but they saw, and you will see, health profits, right? You're going to see profits in the area of your health. You're going to be healthier. You're going to be more satisfied and more fulfilled. You're going to have better relationships, right? And you're going to see those profits in so you're going to be able to have more time and energy to spend with the people that you love, doing the things that you really want to do and that you really love. So imagine the difference that this could really make for your productivity. I want you to take a minute and just write down 2 things that this way of looking at things, how it could change things for you, and how you could implement this understanding, at least from this high level of what you know. Go ahead and take a minute and write that down. And for those of you who'd like to take it one step further, I'd be happy to provide you with a worksheet, but you can also, and if you want that, you can just contact me over Facebook or send me an email and I'll send you the official worksheet for this. But think about a start, stop, continue, right? What do you need to start? What do you need to stop? And what do you need to continue doing in order to take a look at focus in alignment? It's a real simple, high-level exercise. You can make 3 columns on the paper and just identify, 2 actions in each area that would help you to align the 3 different types of focus for yourself. So I'm going to give you that as something to do right after the webinar so that we can continue on. But that's something that you can do right afterwards, and just really, as you let the learnings sink in and the distinctions that you had, you can write those things down. Now, you're thinking, okay, this is interesting. This is a different perspective. And I'm going to tell you that, in Stephen Covey, when he wrote First Things First, he talked about 3 generations of time management. He talked about, first of all, it was tasks, right? Task lists. People love task lists. So many people still use task lists, right? Because it releases dopamine in our system, and we love to check things off, because every time we check it off, right, it releases dopamine in our system. We're like, yeah, gives us that short-term hit. And then we move to, more sophisticated means of tools and resources like planners, something that we could appreciate the value of those priorities and how we plan things ahead of time. And those were all great, but they're resources and they're tools. And I'll tell you, as a coach working with, so many business owners over the last, 5 years, is at first, I'm the resource queen, so I've got a resource for everything. So I'd give people resources, and I'd see that they didn't do anything with them. I'd give them the best tools and resources that were going to be a game changer for their business, and they did nothing with it. Because you can't give resources to people. This is a quote from Steve Linder, at least that's where I heard it, and it really stuck with me. You give resources to resourcefulness, right? And that's if you think about it, it's pretty profound, because people, unless they're resourceful, are not going to take advantage of those tools. And so therefore they might as well not even have them, right? And so that's why planners only went so far. And then, that's when Stephen Covey talked about values-based and being able to really appreciate and identify and live by our values, and use things like the urgency versus importance, the quadrants, to identify what really needs to be done, what's important based on our values, and what it is that we're looking to achieve. And I'm going to tell you that, those are all important, and they all build on each other, and they've all come from a deeper understanding of time management. And now we have a fourth generation, and that fourth generation has come about because we're even more challenged than ever to live by our values because of the constant distraction, because of the economy and the challenges that it's put on our lifestyle. And people are working more hours, doing more in companies with less staff, and so that's really creating additional challenges. And also, kids are more active, so you're having to run them all over the place to the different activities that they're doing. There's just so many more things that are going on that are competing for our priorities and competing against our values. So the key thing is how? How do we get back to that value-based living? What is the key? And I'm going to tell you that the next generation, you're not going to be surprised because you've already heard this and you've already learned it, is energy management. Right? It's understanding the components of energy management, and how we manage that is going to be a game changer in the way that we look and approach what we traditionally call time management. Do you get that? This is big. I mean, I can't tell you, it's so many of the seminars that I've been to where I've spoken, people come up to me afterwards and they're like, oh my God. They're like, that's a real game changer for me to finally stop focusing on time and really understanding what are the components of energy, of energy management. And the components of energy management are the same components that go into championship psychology. It's purpose, it's focus, it's physiology, and it's language. Those are the four elements. Now, I know that you've heard those words before, right? And so you're saying, yeah, I know those words, I know those. Well, the key thing is there's a whole language around this, okay? It's the language of productivity. There are 10 essential elements that define productivity and define how we approach our time and energy management in the most efficient and effective way. And, so you may know the terms just by hearing them, but there's over 50 modules of online training that I go into much more depth to really understand what these 10 elements are. And as part of this Take Charge of Your Productivity program, I've also, we can't manage what we don't measure. And so the interesting thing is there's no way to measure time management. And so when we're learning this language, we need to also have a way to measure and understand where are we now and have a baseline. And so that's why the very basis of the program starts with a self-assessment. You need to be able to identify, where am I on a scale from 1 to 10 for these 10 elements? And so there's the first ever productivity profile. It's almost like, you've got personality profiles like Myers-Briggs and DISC and things like that. This is the personal productivity profile that identifies for you and helps you to understand where you are now and what are the components that make up this time and energy management, that make up, that ability to be dramatically more productive. And then, right, that'll give us the understanding of each of the elements. And then the next level is, there's also understanding the framework. It explains the framework. It identifies really a clear action plan, because when you know where you are, that's great, but that's where a lot of those challenges, those personality profiles, that's where they stop, right? And so they're only good to a certain extent because, well, where's the action plan? What do I do with this? How do I really concretely take this forward? So in my online program, in my online system, there's an action plan, very clear, based on this and based on the identified obstacles that you have, is to identify what are the actions that you need to take. And then there's a dashboard that after you take action, you need to follow up and follow through, right? So you set those actions, and then you need to be able to check in with yourself and create that accountability. So every 2 weeks, you'll be invited back in the system to update your assessment, to reevaluate where you are and where you've been, celebrate your successes and your progress, and also identify where are the areas that you want to continue to focus. And by doing that every 2 weeks, you then have that necessary the alignment of those areas of focus that's going to make a difference, because it's kind of like sales. Salespeople, if you didn't measure the sales at all, then you probably wouldn't be able to optimize and improve things so that you could increase conversion rates and increase your sales over time. So it's the same thing with your productivity, is you've got to constantly come back to it to say, okay, how am I doing? Right? Reevaluate where you are, and giving it that focus is going to make all the difference. As a matter of fact, right now they said that workers are 5 out of the 8 hours a day that they're productive. So can you imagine, by using a system like this and just identifying where you are and focusing on it, that you'd be able to, if you were just able to get back 1 of those 3 hours for yourself, and also if you have a company, for all of your staff. Wow, that's a game changer, right? 1 hour a day is more than, what is that? That's like 3 weeks a year. That's huge. If you could spend that 3 weeks with your family, or focus it on sales to generate more business, whatever it is you'd want to do with that, you'd have that time. And so that's why this is an essential way to move forward. It's going to help you with the how-to, right? And that's why I wanted to say in the beginning that I was going to offer you some ideas and opportunities on how you can do that. So when you really would like to know, and you'd like to have this self-assessment, you'd like to hear more about the online program, or if you think you'd like to have that experience, because when you're learning a new language, and I can tell you firsthand, because I went and I lived for 16 years in Zurich, Switzerland, and the way you really learn a language is by immersing yourself, right? It's in the experience. And so that's why we also have a live event that's specifically focused around championship psychology, because it is the most important part. We do cover a little bit of the other segments, but it's primarily focused on championship psychology. And you leave that event, right? You get a clear action plan. You're going to leave there with increased focus and engagement. You're going to identify that negative self-talk and squash it out, right? And you're going to increase that confidence by knowing who you are and what you're about. You're going to improve your time management approach. I have to use that language, time management, because that's what people are comfortable with, but it's really about how you approach it. You're going to gain a lot more clarity. You're going to strengthen your leadership skills. You're going to get some amazing accountability partners to check in with each other and help each other move each other forward. I can tell you that in some of the live events that I've been to and the programs I've been to, really my best friends have come from those events. So amazing, amazing connections that you can't even describe. And also to create a dynamic culture of productivity, whether it's for yourself, within your family, and especially there in business. So the results that you can be looking at, oh, I'm sorry, that's the same slide, but without a picture. And the most important thing is I can tell you all about it, but what I'd really like to do is Ann Dorn, one of the women who was there in Seattle in May, I'd like to let her explain what her experience was so that you can hear it from somebody who was at the event.
I would recommend that everybody attend this. I think that sometimes people believe they need to be in a certain place in their life. They either believe that they are too advanced, they've invested a lot of money in coaching and workshops and self-help books and whatnot, and they might think that they don't need this, and I would say you are wrong. You do. This is incredible and powerful information, and one of the things that makes it so powerful and empowering is its simplicity. I was able to put into play immediately the tools that I've learned, and I am sitting there processing, knowing that my life is changing on the spot. That is such a powerful feeling. And just to be able to see a different future, a future with more hope and freedom and joy, and finally the ability to break through and head toward my goals, is there's just not a price tag. You just cannot label that. So I would encourage anybody, whether they're new to workshops and have never done anything like this before, or they've invested tens of thousands of dollars. I think that this really meets you where you're at. And regardless of your background, you're going to get a lot from it. So go.
So I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you, Anne. I mean, that's the kind of results that people had, the kind of feeling that they had while they were there. And so when this resonates with you and you learned a lot about focus, we've got 10 other elements that we go a lot deeper, right? And we go a lot deeper into those areas of alignment for focus and help you to get those specific strategies, whether it's in the online program or in the boot camp. And I just wanted to talk about the boot camp a little bit, offer you the opportunity. I wanted to give a special offer tonight for you people who took the time to come here and to make the time an investment in yourself and in your productivity, and offer you sort of a summer special because, as we get closer to the event, we want to be able to know how many people are intending to come. So it'll help us to make some estimates and really give you sort of like an early action advantage. And so for the first 5 people who would like to take advantage of this opportunity, I'm going to offer you a special offer in a minute, but we're only able to offer that for 5 people. So what this includes is this 2-day intensive with powerful workshops and exercises, and the value of the program is $24.97. I should say it's not the value of the program, but it's what it's going for retail. There's also that insightful assessment that I talked about that is a value of $97. The impactful online training program, that's $9.97. The individualized coaching sessions, each at the event we offer, there's an amazing group of coaches who are supporting the event and helping out with the exercise, and they are providing one-on-one coaching during those 2 days, which are amazingly valuable, and hard to give it a value, but I gave it a value of about $500. And these are coaches like myself that charge over between $500 to $1,500 an hour. So, getting time with these people with their experience and the breadth of people that they've worked with, the experience that they can bring to you, and the techniques that they have to help you break through some of these limitations and obstacles that are holding you back are invaluable. So these are some of the top coaches that I know anywhere. And then you're going to get some really proprietary tools and methods. So the trigger management method is priceless. When Anne talked about that things are changing right before her eyes, as we teach people, we all have these emotional triggers. It's a fact. We're human. The key thing is not to live there in those negative emotions. So we have specific methods. We've really broken it down and made it easy, created a framework and a series of steps that help you to really understand how to very quickly shift your mindset so that you can get past any kind of negativity that you're feeling and really learn from it and really let go of it. Not hold it inside and it become a problem, but really let go of it and be able to move on. Another process which is absolutely invaluable is our neurovisual dynamics process. Now, this is a process that Dr. Tom Duncan and I created out of it's a combination of hypnosis process that we learned combined with some other tools. And basically what we needed to do was, Dr. Tom meets with people, and he only has really 15 minutes to meet with them, and he has a lot of people coming through with depression. And so he wanted to really be able to create a version of, bring all of these tools together and create a process that could help his patients be able to turn around their depression in that short period of time. And you might say, that's crazy. Well, you might say it's crazy, but it works, and he's had amazing results, and I've had amazing results using it with my clients. The fact is that we were able to create an 8-minute process that we work with, and let's use the example that Dr. Tom's been able to reduce his psychotropic drug prescriptions by over 80% by simply using this process. People coming in who were depressed at a level of 10 and feeling that they could change it at a level of 0, left his office 15 to 30 minutes later with below 2 feeling depressed and a 10 in being able to change the situation. So amazing, amazing results. And you're going to get that as part of, we do it as a part of the event for you so that you leave there, you know, in a completely new state. But we also give it to you to take home with you so that you can listen to it on a regular basis, which is going to reinforce and keep those negative triggers at bay. Together with the trigger management method, absolutely priceless in your in your life, and actually in the life of your kids. It was interesting. We had 2 kids there. We had a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old at the event, and we also had people who said, God, I wish I brought my kids here, because, you know, can you imagine having those types of tools and methods and techniques when you're that young, to be able to apply that? It's a life changer. And so I also want to let you know that if you do have children, teenage children, I advise probably that it be sort of 13 and up, is that you can bring those children for free because we are totally committed and absolutely want to serve families who want to bring this to their kids. And eventually we may create a kids program in itself, just for kids, but I do know that we will have a few teenagers who are going to be present in the October session. By the way, the dates are October 18th and 19th. And finally, we're going to have follow-up support. So you want to know the drum roll, please, right? So as I said, we're offering all of that, which is, you know, if I go back there, all of that, despite the priceless things, are about $4,300, and the price of the event for all of that together is $24.97. Now, as I said, I wanted to do something special for the people who are committing and investing in themselves. I know that on the East Coast here, it's almost 11 o'clock, and you're still online. So I want to reward you for that, and I want to commend you. And really what we want to offer here is, for the first 5 people only, because we really can only afford to do that for 5 people, is we're going to offer the 2-day boot camp with all of those things that were previously listed for $14.97. Okay, for the first 5 people that either text me, email me, or get in touch with me somehow, call me, Facebook me, whatever. Or if you were to decide, you know what, I want the VIP upgrade instead. And the VIP upgrade includes one-on-one coaching directly from myself and Dr. Tom before and after the event. So, and it offers you, you know, some special things during the event as well. So if you would like to have the discount and be able to come for $14.97, it's in Philadelphia. It's by the Philadelphia airport, and it's October 18th and 19th, and we're going to offer for the first 5 people $14.97 or a free VIP upgrade. So go ahead and, you know, when this resonates with you and you really want to dig below the surface of that iceberg, there's so much there, and there's so much that we have to offer. So I'd be so excited to have you there at the program. So regardless of whether you decide to go to the program or you just want to continue to listen to my radio show, which you can find on Blog Talk Radio, where I interview different authors around the 10 elements of time and energy management, or maybe you think, you know what, I'd just like to do the assessment and have my personal productivity profile done, that's fine too. Whatever you decide, I am sure that the value that you got today, that this is going to help you move forward, understanding that there are 3 different types of focus, and by bringing them in alignment, you can really dramatically increase your productivity. So I just want to remind you that productivity equals profits, right? So learning that language of productivity and really getting it and understanding it, knowing where you are, understanding the components, and being able to adapt and change in the areas that you need to, is going to make all the difference in every area of your life. So I just want to leave you with a little Charles Darwin quote, where he says, "It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change." And really, so it's about flexibility. It's about understanding that it's how you show up, and how you show up needs to have a great deal of flexibility. And that's one of the core things that we work on in the area of championship psychology. So thank you all so much for being here. It's been a great hour. I want to just open it up in case anybody has any questions. I'm not sure that I understand this platform and if I'll even be able to get any of those, but let's take a look and see. So if you have any questions, let's see. I should be able to take that off. Hey everyone, it's me. Okay, so that should be off now. If you can go into the group chat where I said hello here, if you have any questions, you just want to say hi, you want to share some distinctions or a learning that you had, you can do that here, or you can do it over Facebook. You can message me and I can read that out. Or if I'm completely not understanding how this Google Plus thing works, these Hangouts, and I can't get that this time, feel free to email me at penny.zenker@smartmovescoaching.com, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. And let's see, I did get an email here. Oh, thank you. Somebody just said thank you. They really got a lot out of it and really appreciate the new perspectives. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions? You can type it into that bar, wherever your bar might be. Let's see. I'm looking here on Facebook. Okay, here's a question. Hold on. I got a hello. So I guess that was just telling me that you're online. Awesome. Thank you. I think that was from in the beginning. So maybe that's taken a little while for my emails to get through. All right. Well, I think that technology has failed us in this case. I'm not really sure how this is working. I'll just do one more refresh of my email here. And so I'll just say thank you all so much for being here. And if you have any questions, feel free to just call me at, email me at penny.zenker@smartmovescoaching.com, and or catch me on Facebook. Please do share on Facebook if, whatever kind of learnings that you picked up, anything that you want to share with other people. I will be running this same webinar again, and I'll be doing some other time wasters because I've got a whole series for you. So if you're interested, I'll keep you posted. All right, so take care, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. And remember that taking charge of your productivity is a choice that you can feel good about. Take care, everyone. Bye.